Breathless. Forbidden, Book 2. Written by Susanna Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 13. There was only one other couple close to our age in our ballroom dancing class, and they were getting married. Cade was the one who asked them why they were taking this class, and the girl replied that they were preparing for their wedding. They wanted to impress their guests with their first dance, and the waltz we were learning was what they were planning to use. After the girl inquired into why we were taking the class, Cade smirked at me before replying to her.
Lexie says she won't have sex with me until I learn how to dance.
The couple laughed as I turned red in embarrassment. They laughed even harder when I glared at Cade. One of the instructors came over to see what was so funny, and it happened to be the male instructor, which increased my humiliation. Still laughing, the guy from the other couple informed him that Cade had the ultimate motivation for learning to dance.
Yes,
Cade declared loudly before I could stalk away.
Love. I love you, Lexie.
The class erupted in cheers as I gaped at Cade. Was this just for show? He wasn't serious, was he? Maybe this was part of his ploy to win the bet. He stepped closer to me, his intense gaze locked on mine.
I mean it,
he told me in a quiet tone that conveyed seriousness. Okay, on that note, we'll wish you a good week. The female instructor projected her voice from across the room. You've made a great start. Keep practicing your steps at home, and we'll see you next time. I broke eye contact with Cade and followed the rest of the class outside into the parking lot. Cade took hold of my hand, but I snatched it away. What the hell was that? I demanded, trying to hold on to my anger while feeling completely disconcerted.
The truth,
he stated. You love me? I questioned in disbelief.
Yes,
he said.
I think I fell in love with you on our first date, but I didn't realize it until months after we broke up.
You don't love me, I argued.
I do,
he insisted.
Why would I wait for you all this time if I didn't love you?
How do I know if you really waited? Even as I asked the question, I felt like I was grasping at straws. Deep down, on some instinctive level, I believed him.
You can ask my mom, and I can show you my Facebook chats. I saved all my private messages from girls. If you still don't believe me, I'll prove it to you by waiting as long as you want. Even if you don't have sex with me for another 2 years, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still your boyfriend, no matter what.
Why are you doing this? I exclaimed.
Why am I telling you that I love you?
He questioned with a perplexed expression. Yes. Why? Every time I think I have things figured out, you confuse me again. It was supposed to be just sex, but then you talked me into dating you, and now you're saying you love me. I don't know what to think anymore.
Yes, you do,
he replied in a low, sensual tone.
You know how you feel about me, but you just haven't accepted it yet.
I stalked around to the passenger side of his car in agitation. You're impossible. I can't handle any more of this tonight. Just drive me back to my dorm.
Okay,
he agreed, and unlocked the car. I was tense during the silent ride back to campus, while Cade appeared calm and confident. Since we lived in the same building, he accompanied me inside. When I decided to take the stairs to get away from him, he followed me. What are you doing? I snapped. You can't walk up to the 8th floor.
I actually can,
he retorted.
But I'll take the elevator up from whatever floor you get on it.
I'm not taking the elevator, I told him, even though I had been planning to take it from the 2nd floor.
Just take the elevator,
he urged.
I understand if you need space, and I won't try to talk to you. There's no way I can leave you to walk up these empty stairwells by yourself, though. It's just too dangerous. Remember what I told you about attackers?
He had showed me more than told me. I certainly remembered that demonstration, but I ignored him and kept walking up the stairs. I half expected him to grab me in another show of how an attacker could overpower me, but he just walked beside me as my apparent bodyguard. I regretted my stubbornness when I was already panting after the second flight of stairs. To make matters worse, Cade wasn't out of breath.
Basketball conditioning,
He informed me, after I cast a resentful sideways glance at him.
plus I did a lot of extra workouts on my own. I had to do something with all my sexual frustration. Even masturbating so many times a day wasn't enough, so I ran to exhaust my body.
I needed all my breath to make it up the third flight of stairs, so I couldn't say anything in response. Kay took advantage of that and continued talking.
Sometimes I fantasized about you making the first move on me because you wanted me so much, but I didn't think it would actually happen. You made my fantasy come true, Lexie, and I want to make all your fantasies come true too.
I stopped on the landing to catch my breath, but I was also breathless from the words he had spoken. It was more than his physical effect on me this time. My mind was overwhelmed with the idea that he meant everything he said.
I liked it better when I was the cause of your heavy breathing, but this is fun too.
He remarked. I expected to see a smirk on his face after that quip, but there was understanding in his eyes.
Let's take the elevator before you pass out.
He urged, and opened the door to the hallway. Admitting defeat to myself, if not speaking it aloud to him, I stepped through the doorway and walked toward the elevator. Cade made no comment on my capitulation, and he remained silent as we rode up to my floor. He walked me to my door and only spoke 2 words before taking his leave.
Good night, Lexie.
Good night, I responded without looking at him. Katie was in the room doing homework, but she set it aside to ask about my date with Cade. I told her about the class and the couple that was getting married, but I said nothing about what had occurred with Cade. She still had a dreamy look on her face like I had described an incredibly romantic date. I grabbed my things and left the room to go take a shower. The water washed away the sweat from my exertion of climbing all those stairs, but it did nothing to calm me down. I couldn't stop thinking about Cade, and I gave up on trying to sleep after tossing and turning for a couple of hours. Katie was fast asleep as I got dressed in the dark and crept out of our room. Cade answered the door wearing only a pair of boxer shorts, but he appeared to be wide awake, too. It didn't look like I had woken him.
Yes?
He inquired, like he didn't know exactly why I was there. His lips twitched, though, like he was holding back a smirk. I scowled at him irritably. Kiss me, damn it. His smile broke free then.
What took you so long?
He teased. Shut up, I grumbled, before he swooped in to take me in his arms. It wasn't until the morning that I found out that Cade had gotten rid of his roommate by paying for him to stay overnight at a hotel.
I had a feeling you might need to work off some sexual frustration,
He said, and smirked at me. My face flamed with the memory of how much I had moaned last night. I hadn't even given a thought to Cade's roommate at the time. You were that damned sure of yourself? I demanded, contrarily annoyed with him and relieved that he had spared me embarrassment from his roommate.
Like I said, your body always likes me before you do,
He replied.
and now I know that it likes me a lot, which is why you've lost the bet.
I stiffened at that statement, but crossed my arms across my bare chest in an effort to hide my apprehension. So what do I have to do now? A slow, predatory smile crept across his face as he watched me.
Anything I want,
He said. Both fear and excitement shot through me, and my nipples hardened in arousal. Which is? I asked in an unsteady voice. His gaze intensified.
Does that turn you on?
No, I lied as I shifted my gaze away from him.
It does.
He said, his own voice roughening with arousal.
What do you think I'm going to have you do?
I don't know. Just tell me what it is. He circled around behind me and pulled me back against him.
Tell me what you've been imagining, he demanded huskily as he placed his hand between my legs and began to tease that spot where my pleasure was concentrated. He wouldn't give me enough pressure to get me where I wanted to go until I told him what I had been thinking, and by that time, I was too far gone to come up with a lie. "Naked servant," I gasped. "Yeah?" He breathed into my ear. "Doing what, exactly?" "Dishes, cooking. Oh, yes." "More fun that way," he agreed. I was now beyond talking, and he postponed the rest of the conversation until later. He took me by surprise when he brought it up again after we were both dressed. "Now," he said as he sat down at the end of his bed, "about the terms of our bet. Come here." I stared at him as I slowly approached him. I had thought that we were both sated at the moment, so I hadn't expected him to want anything sexual right now. I was truly apprehensive this time, because I no longer had arousal to distract me. What if he wanted something I didn't want to do? Would this be the end of our relationship? When I stopped before him, he drew out the tension as he regarded me with one of his neutral, unreadable expressions. "Do you trust me?" he finally asked. "Yes," I answered, and waited anxiously for him to tell me what he wanted. "Good," he said. "Go change into a skirt and a blouse that buttons all the way down the front. Don't wear panties. I'll be down soon." I relaxed after hearing these instructions. "Okay, but Katie is probably there. Should I come back up here?" "No," he replied. "I'm taking you somewhere." "Where?" I asked. "Wherever I want. Remember, I told you it would be at my discretion, and you agreed to it. Now go get ready." I assumed that he was expecting his roommate back, so he was taking me to a hotel. So far, this was similar to our previous hotel rendezvous, right down to the no panties request. The only difference was that it was daytime. I was already late for class, and I decided to just skip it altogether. I discovered that Katie wasn't in our room, so she must have had a class. Cade disregarded this information when he came down to get me, and we went out to his car. After we were seated, he pulled a blindfold out of the glove compartment. "Put on your seatbelt first," he commanded. I sat frozen in my seat. Uh, why do you have a blindfold?" "I bought it for you," he answered. "Why?" I questioned anxiously. His answer wasn't reassuring. "Because I want you to wear it." "Why?" I asked. "For what reason?" "You'll find out," he told me enigmatically. "Cade," I began hesitantly. "I don't know what you're into, but—" "You said that you trust me," he interjected. "So put your seatbelt on, and let's get going. I'm missing class for this, and I know that you are too. I'm expecting you to follow through on your promise, but you can stop if things get too intense for you. I hope you won't quit before we've even started, though." My heart constricted at his words. Was he threatening to break up with me? That thought spurred me into action, and I strapped myself in with the seatbelt. As I put on the blindfold he handed me, I desperately hoped that he wasn't into anything too kinky, and that we could still be together. He secured the blindfold snugly over my eyes, obviously making sure that I couldn't peek out from beneath it. I immediately felt vulnerable, and I worried that he would want to restrain my hands next. He said nothing, but I heard the engine start. When the car began to move, I relaxed slightly. "I'm going to check now if you're wearing panties," Cade warned me. I felt his hand on my leg, slipping up under my skirt and moving steadily up to touch me between my legs. I was suddenly very aroused again, but he quickly removed his hand after confirming that I had followed his instructions. "Good girl," he said. What would have happened if I was wearing panties? I asked with a mixture of curiosity and wickedness. "Try it sometime and you'll find out." What does that mean?
I questioned in frustration.
It means that's a game for another day. Now be quiet and pay attention. I don't need you getting startled and screaming your head off in the middle of traffic.
I stiffened in my seat. I'd been so focused on Cade that I'd forgotten about everyone else. People can see me, I exclaimed in horror.
Relax,
He urged.
if anyone noticed, they probably think it's for an innocent surprise. They'll think differently if you get too loud, though.
I heard the sound of the power window and then the hiss of air. Cade! I protested.
I just cracked my window open a little. If you're quiet, nobody will know that anything is going on.
I clamped my mouth shut and steeled myself to silently withstand his sensual touches and caresses. He knew how to make me moan, so I'd have to keep tight control of myself. The blindfold somehow seemed to heighten my awareness of him, even though I couldn't see him. My ears strained to hear any movement he made, and my skin felt extra sensitive to his touch. Only he wasn't touching me. I waited in tense anticipation, but nothing happened. When the car stopped, Cade finally put his hand on my knee, and my nerves were so taut that I gasped.
Take off your seatbelt,
He said, his voice close to my ear.
I'll come around and help you out.
I'm going to walk out in public like this? I asked in alarm.
It's a surprise, Lexie. A very good surprise.
He added, and grazed his lips over my earlobe. I shivered in response, and he tugged on my earlobe gently with his teeth. That elicited a small, breathy moan from me.
Erogenous zone.
He breathed into my ear.
Good to know.
I felt him pull away and heard the sound of his car door opening. When he opened mine, I released my seatbelt, and Cade took my hand to help me out of the car. I took one careful step at a time as he guided me with his arm around my waist. I was incredibly self-conscious as I imagined people staring at me.
Stop here.
Cade told me.
Wait a minute.
I stood awkwardly for a very short time before he returned to resume guiding me forward. After he again told me to stop, I distinctly heard the sound of a door shutting. Where are we? I asked in bewilderment. We hadn't walked far enough to have moved through a lobby and down a hotel hallway.
Take off the blindfold,
He said. I hesitated in surprise before complying. Cade stood before me in the entryway of a house. There was a narrow table along the wall to my left. My gaze flitted back to Cade. Whose house is this?
It's my condo,
He replied.
I'm renting it.
You're moving out of your dorm? I questioned.
Yes, I knew I wouldn't be able to live with a roommate.
A short laugh burst out of me along with most of my tension. Why am I even surprised? He smiled in response, but something else suddenly occurred to me. Wait, so this was really about a surprise? That's what the blindfold was about?
I did want to surprise you.
He confirmed. Then why'd you insist on no panties? I exclaimed. What was all that stuff about warning me to be quiet so no one would hear me? He shrugged.
You seem to want it to be sexual.
Heat swept through me, and I wasn't entirely sure if it was caused more by embarrassment or anger. You asshole, I sputtered. Do you have any idea how freaked out I was? I thought you were into all that bondage stuff, and I didn't know if we'd even be able to stay together. He smirked.
It was fun to mess with you like that. And
His expression changed to a heated, lustful look.
it turned you on. And seeing you get turned on turned me on too. I couldn't wait to get you here and touch you like I wanted to.
Now the heat I was feeling was definitely sexual. But you're just standing there, I complained. You got me all
Hot and bothered.
he supplied, with a smirk at my frustration.
I like you like that. But have patience. It's something I had to learn when we weren't together. And now it comes in handy for driving you crazy.
Well, I huffed. Maybe that will backfire on you, and I won't be in the mood anymore. He didn't rise to my challenge.
We'll see,
He said neutrally.
Now, about the terms of our bet. I want you to move in with me.
My annoyance was immediately forgotten. That's what you want? I asked him happily. Out of anything at all, that's what you picked?
Well,
He hedged.
there's more, but I didn't want to freak you out, as you put it.
My stomach sank, but I prompted him stoically. Tell me. I want to hear it. He looked torn.
This isn't how I wanted to do this. I should wait for a better time.
I knew that waiting would only make it worse. My heart was already breaking at the thought of finding out that we were incompatible. Whatever dark secret he was hesitating to reveal to me, I needed to know it now. I can't wait, I told him, trying for a teasing tone. You know I have no patience. He responded with a smile that quickly dissolved into determination.
Okay. Put the blindfold back on.
My heart began to hammer in apprehension. I had suspected that there had to be a sexual element to what he wanted, and now I had pushed him to collect on it. He had hinted that it would freak me out, so it had to be something really kinky. But I had already told him that I didn't want to try bondage. My mind whirled with anxious thoughts as he again made sure that the blindfold was secure over my eyes. He left me standing there, blindly awaiting whatever he was going to do. He hadn't removed any of my clothes or fondled me in any way, so I started to wonder if he was just playing a joke on me. Maybe he was standing back, silently laughing at me as I stood there like a fool, following his order not to move. Maybe he was waiting to see how long I would stand there and wait for him.
Okay.
I heard him say.
Take the blindfold off.
I removed it and saw him kneeling before me with a bouquet of flowers he had obviously taken out of a vase filled with water. The stems were still wet, and a few drops had dripped onto Cade's shorts.
Will you marry me, Lexie?
Yes! I exclaimed and shot forward toward him before halting. Wait, we can't get married? We just started college, and our parents will kill us, I realized. Oh my God, our parents! Cade, we're going to be in so much trouble. I can't move in with you. Your dad will have a fit. Cade smiled like he was the happiest guy on earth.
You said yes.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking. You know we can't get married.
Your first instinct was to say yes. What does that tell you, Lexie?
I wasn't thinking, I repeated. Did you hear me, Cade? We can't get married.
Patience.
He chided me as he dropped the flowers and scooted forward to lift my skirt. My breath hitched as he leaned in between my legs. What are you doing?
Well,
He said in a soft, seductive tone.
it turns out that having my girlfriend accept my proposal makes me want to make love to her. And since I'm already down here...
All other protests died in my throat when I felt his hot, wet mouth.